gang, it's a Tuesday night once again. Welcome to Tuesday Night Live.
Chris Reardon, Tuesday night, reach on it.
Oh, the jingles get more and more fabulous, don't they? Very good evening to you, boys and girls. Welcome along to our little show. Well, it's lots of ways of joining in if you want to this evening. You can send us a message there on the YouTube chat box or on TikTok. Or indeed, how about sending a text on our exclusive text number, boys and girls? Here's the text number.
You can send Chris a text message right now on 07451 287 337.
There we are.
07451 287 337.
All right, darlings, that's the text number. And I'm very, very pleased to say that the first text this evening has come from the delightful Chavy Mark Bowles and his grey tracksuit bottoms. Good evening to you, Mark. How are you today? Lovely. I do like your messages as they come in here. I can't always read them out, as you well know. But they're very, very nice indeed. Okay, so once again, gang, if you'd like to join in at any point, send us a message on the Reach on Air message system. You can text in 07451 287 337 is the text number. Okay, here it is again as a jingle.
You can send Chris a text message right now on 07451 287 337. 07451 287 337.
Or, of course, use the Reach on Air message system or the YouTube chat box. Just nice and quickly then, Mark Bowles is there tonight. Good evening, Mark. DJ George Bond, first in there on YouTube. Evening, George. Mandy Davenport in the house. She's head of Pain and Suffering on this channel, boys and girls. If you are step out of place at any time, I will be asking Mandy Davenport to dish out Pain and Suffering. Mark Bowles says, Chavy, how rude. Well, that's how you look, darling. That's the look that we like. Don't change it. Good God, man. Don't start wearing a suit or anything like that. Don't forget the Reach on Air message system. That's the best way to send us a message. You get priority over everyone else. Of course you do. It's your show. Of course you do. All right, darling. Vera's there from Vera's Choice in the Morning. Good evening, Vera. And I'm wearing a lovely shirt tonight, if I can describe it, which is yellow with flowers on it. I think I'm going to give this... I'll have time to wash this before Friday. Oh, of course you're not coming Friday, are you? No, because you're going somewhere else. Oh, thanks very much, Vera. As you know, boys and girls, regular listeners to this show will know that one of the things I do is host karaoke on a Friday and a Saturday night at Central Station in Wharfdale Road, King's Cross. And Vera comes every week, unless there's something better on, and then she don't bother. No, I've just been tossed aside. I've been tossed aside. It's outrageous, isn't it? Thank you, Mark. I quite like the sound of that. I do like the sound of that. Thank you, Mark. So Vera's not along Friday. She may come Saturday if, and I quote, she finds time. Huh. Dear me. Never mind. Good evening to Posh Twink Carl. Evening to you. The family are watching tonight. Are we on a big telly somewhere in your house, Carl? Are we? I shall have to watch what I say this evening, won't I? Natalie's there. Good evening to Natalie. Evening to you, darling. All right. Is that it? I think that's about it, isn't it? I think that's about it. That's everyone here tonight. Oh, you're quiet tonight, aren't you? And Mr. Ray Reynolds is in the house. Good evening to Ray Reynolds. My very, very good ukulele playing friend, Mr. Ray Reynolds, is with us tonight as well. Morning to Paul and Lou. Is there a prize? We don't do prizes anymore, darling. Do you know how much I spent on prizes? Eh? No, there's no more prizes. When we used to do the YouTube only show in the morning and, of course, the bingo, it cost an absolute fortune to run that thing, which I didn't mind because I thought it would build up, except it didn't. You can't win everything. Thank you very much. And Mick Davenport's there as well. Evening to Mick Davenport. Okay, doke, boys and girls. Well, as you know, last week I was on holiday in Israel. Oh, by the way, a little bit later on, we'll be opening the phone line as well. If you want to call in, that's a little bit later on, though, this evening. We usually do it early, but we're going to do it later on tonight so I can get my story out of the way. And anything that you might want to ask, actually, about the holiday, you can do that as well. A little bit later on, perhaps when we open up the phone line, all right? Evening to Shania. She's on the Isle of Wight. Evening to the beautiful Shania, who I believe has been mentioned. Have you been mentioned? She's been mentioned in the homily last week, which is the sermon. You know, priest comes on after the gospel. We all sit down and he starts rabbiting away and we sort of kind of drift off a little bit sometimes. But Shania had her name mentioned. How fabulous is that, darling? Now, the thing is, Shania, is that as good as being mentioned on this show? You know, here on Reach On Air. Is it as good to be mentioned at the church homily as it is to be mentioned on this programme? You know, which is it? Do let us know, Shania, okay? So, last week I was on holiday, Israel, and it was a fabulous time. I'd love to tell you about it right now. So here goes. And we left on Friday morning. It was a bit of an early get-up, I think around about quarter past 4 in the morning I got up on the Friday. And my mate would have got up at a similar time over at his house. And a car came and picked me up around about 5:30. He'd arranged a car, lovely car actually, a nice BMW 5 Series. But he knows the bloke and he did it quite cheap. You see, the thing is, I'm very lucky here. I'm very close to Heathrow Airport. We're talking 20 minutes drive. Literally, 20 minutes drive, which is great. But to get there at that time of the morning, you know, I don't know if they have buses from here. I could get a bus from just there to that bus station. So you want to get a car. And I think he charged him about £120. That's there and back. Yeah? So he took us there and collected us when we came back as well. So he was quite happy with that, which my mate paid for, which I'm very happy about. You know, we like other people to get to pay for things, don't we? And they picked us up and they took us to the airport. Now, we were very, very lucky. And we were flying with Virgin Atlantic to Tel Aviv Airport, Ben Garrison or something like that they call it, I think. Tel Aviv Airport. And we were lucky to be flying on the Virgin upper class, right? And the reason we did that was because my mate, when he was going out with his other half, they built up a load of air mile points because they were always flying all over the place. I mean, they love it. You know, I'm not a fan of flying. I really don't like it. Even in the posh seats, I get bored. I'm uncomfortable most of the time, even in the posh seats. It's just not my thing. But nevertheless, if you're going to fly, this is the way to do it. So we got the upper class seats, which only cost us £400 each return. Usual price, £1,500. But he had all these air mile points type things, or whatever they're called. I don't know, Virgin points or something. They're all the same blooming thing. Bit like nectar points, except you don't get pints of milk and sweets for nothing. You get flights, cheaper. So we got to this club lounge, and it's got its own private drive-in place, this has. Oh, yes, dear. You don't go, you know, with all the other people. Your car drives up this private drop-off place. It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So we got dropped off there, and we checked in. There was no one in front of us. In fact, there was no one there at all, other than me and my mate and 4, like, hostesses and a host who was... what do you call a hostesses? Male host? They're all hosts, aren't they? Hosts at the check-in as you went through the doors. And then we carried on through, and then we went up these lovely stairs, and we got to the top, and this shutter was down. And I thought, are we in the right place? Anyway, the shutter was kind of, when I say down, it was open a little bit, about a foot off the floor. And my mate peered down and said, are we coming in? Oh, no, we're not open till 6. It was about 10 to 6 or something like that. Oh, okay then. So we got there too early. And we sat down outside, and then another lady come along and joined us. We had a bit of a natter with her. And then bang on 6 o'clock, they raised the shutters, and we went into the club lounge, which was really nice. It's very large, very comfortable. There's all sorts of food available, including a cooked breakfast, which I had, with several cups of tea. You can have booze if you want. My mate had a glass of champagne. I can't be drinking at that time of the morning. That doesn't do it for me at all. You know, it's extremely rare that I ever have a drink, to be honest. Usually at an afternoon tea, maybe a glass of champagne. That's about all I ever drink. a couple of those a year, and that's it, me done. Although I've got a really expensive bottle of champagne in the fridge at the moment. Anyone want to come and join me for that? Hands up, who wants to join me for my expensive... That was for my birthday, that was. Well, I've kept that in the fridge since February from our little Claridge's trip. Yeah, I haven't had that a while. So I don't really drink, so we had a glass of champagne. I had several cups of tea. And then you can have a shower in there, so we had a shower. And then a sit down, and they've got these, like, seats that are, like, big... like straw, I don't know what they are. Is it like straw? What's that stuff called? Like wicker things hanging down from the ceiling. And we sat in there spinning around, which was quite nice. And then we went up onto the roof. And from the roof, well, actually, you can see even from the spinning chair, you look out onto the runway. And it's great to see all these planes landing and turning around and all that business. I love watching the planes, don't you? Do you like that? Do you like watching the planes? Oh, I love it. But then you can go up to the top, and there's like a sort of garden area. So there's no grass or anything like that. It's plastic grass and some seats. And you can sit up there and just watch the planes go by. Although at 6 o'clock in the morning, it was a little bit chilly out there, so we didn't want to stay up there too long, especially as we dressed for the summer heat. We didn't have coats or anything like that with us. Not like going on holiday, in the middle of February or something like that. Even when you're going to a hot place. Well, it ain't hot at this end, is it, mate? So that was lovely. And we spent about 2 hours in there altogether, I think. And it goes so quickly, the time. And the staff, the Virgin staff, milling around in there, serving you food and drinks and things like that. What was that? Did you hear that? What was that noise? I just heard a noise then. Did you hear a noise? How weird was that? Where did that noise come? Hang on a minute. 8:13. 9:13. I'll have a look at that later. What on earth was that noise? A very strange, mysterious noise I just heard then. Anyway, we'll carry on. These Virgin staff milling around looking after you all are really laid back and nice. Ever such nice people. Really, and they got time to talk to you and all that too. Vera says she heard that noise as well. Now, I don't know if that came from my phone or where. That was weird. It's not my headphones. My headphones are all the way over there. It's not the speakers. What a strange thing that was. Wasn't it? Oh, well, we carry on. And they've got time to talk to you. Nothing is rushed or anything like that. And when the time came, we were called to the plane. And we thought it was very quiet there, actually. So we're kind of going through it. And there was no one in front of us. This was the weird thing. I thought, is there anyone else on this plane? And when we got to the plane, we've gone sort of down the stairs, through the shops and that, and back up at the other end, And we've gone down that little bridge, that little thing. So we've gone through the check-in, which we did all the check-in online the day before. Gone are the days when you have to you spend all this time at the blooming check-in desk. You do most of that on, and then they just check it when you hand over your passports and stuff like that. And so we gone through, then went in that little bridge. That bridge that goes up and down, and you walk onto the plane directly from this bridge thing. So we went through that, and we got to the end. There was no one in front of us. And I got to the front, and I said, is there anyone else on this plane? She said, yes, everyone else is on here now. I said, are we late? No, sir, you're upper class, so you get called last when everyone else is in position. So you ain't got to hang around. It's well worth the money. If you want to fly, I recommend you save up for upper class, business, club class, whatever you want to call it, where you got the flat beds and all that. Save up the money and save the money on the hotel. Right? You don't need a posh hotel. You really don't. I'll always say that. You do not need a posh hotel. You ain't going to be sitting in a hotel in Israel for 7 days. You're going to be in and out. Sleep, shower, watch a bit of telly. Have cups of tea. So we did that. And we got onto the plane. Weird configuration of seats, really. Your back is actually against the window, which I thought was a bit odd. But reasonably comfortable seats. They go flat, just like a bed, if you want to go for a little bit of a sleep. And I did for a while. I had a little bit of a sleep. The food on there, I didn't particularly enjoy, I have to say. I've been on BA club class before, although that is some years ago now. We're talking a minimum of about 5 years ago, the last time I went on there. And I thought the food was better on the BA club than it was in the Virgin upper class. But there you go. Staff-wise, they're both fairly friendly. I would say the Virgin staff are a bit more laid back, if you see what I mean, than the British Airways staff. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean they were unfriendly in any way, shape or form. The BA staff, when I've flown with them several times, actually, several times in the club class, but more laid back, yeah. Flight, well, as comfortable as it can be, you know, as I say, I'm never comfortable on a plane at all. And off we went. I watched a film. Yeah, you've got several films to choose from, lots and lots of films to choose from. We had I think we had one meal on there, if I remember rightly, one meal, and then you could go to the bar back and help yourself to snacks, which involves basically crisps, chocolates, sweets of some sort like that. And also, at the back of the upper class, there is like a little bar area with stalls, and you can literally sit at the bar. The drink is all included, you know, and help yourself to a drink, or one of the staff comes probably and does the drink. I don't know, because I don't drink. And that's all well and good. Now, you would imagine some people would probably take the mick out of that. You know, the fact that there's free drink. The moment you put something for free, people really do take the mick. And I've seen this in pubs for years and years and years, you know, when people turn up. The moment they say, oh, buffet included, the pub fills up. And you never see these people the rest of the year. As soon as you put free, I always think that's a little bit damaging. But I didn't really see that there. In actual fact, I only saw 2 people at that bar on my few trips to and from the toilet. But you know, there you go. The toilet was actually very small. And I seem to remember the British Airways toilet being a bit bigger than that. I often wonder, you know, when you've been on a plane toilet and you sit there, what would happen, right, if you pushed the flush button while you were sitting on that toilet? Would you get sucked down? Do you know what I mean? Would you actually get, like, sucked down the toilet? So it would. I mean, you wouldn't. I mean, you obviously wouldn't be sucked down the toilet, but would it create like a suction where you couldn't get off the toilet again? You'd have to open the door, and the Virgin staff would have to kind of lever you off, wouldn't they, by rocking you backwards and forwards on there. Anyway, so that's most of the plane flight. Let me just read some of your messages as you're kind enough to be sending them in. Shania says it's a tough one. Either mentioned here on the show or mentioned by her local priest at the church she serves at and works at on the Isle of Wight. It's a tough one. Is that? Thank you, Shania. Evening to Peter Lake in Woodall Spa. Evening to you, Peter. How's your mum, Peter? I hope your mum's doing well. Tell her I said hello, okay? Evening to Gary Ross. Evening, Gary, who says, good to see you back. I'm listening to the show on my car radio, linked up to my iPhone. That's fantastic. Isn't it great? You can do that. Reach on air. Yeah, just Bluetooth it to a speaker wherever you are. Is anyone listening on a smart speaker tonight, just as a matter of interest? Anyone thinking about that? Mark Bowles says he's going to be round soon. I do hope so, Mark. I wait and I wait and I wait, and nothing happens, does it? You never turn up here, love. Evening, Stephen Petty. Evening, Stephen, who says, I hope you're safe and well. Good evening to you, Stephen. Thanks for sending the message this evening, sir. We just scroll up there. Good evening to... Evening to John Parrish. Evening to John Parrish. No, that wasn't me who made that noise. I have no idea what made that noise. I'm sure it came out of my phone. I'm pretty sure it came out of my phone. Very, very strange. Strange and mysterious messages coming through. Yes. George thinks it's a ghost. No, I don't think it's a ghost, George. I do believe in I believe in spirits. Absolutely do I believe in spirits. Carl says I could join you for the champagne. I don't think you drink much, do you, Carl? Might take you out to an afternoon tea one time. Yeah, you can't really put your red outfit on though, my love. Would you like to go to an afternoon tea one day? Would you like that, my love? You can come to an afternoon tea one day. We could do that in London somewhere. Vera, if I sat on the toilet and flushed the train on the plane while still sitting there, your eyeballs would be pulled from their sockets. That's funny you should mention eyeballs. Mark Bowles was suggesting doing something with my eyeballs in a private message some moments ago. Is that strange? Is that strange? There's a lovely Natalie. Thank you, Natalie. It's good to have you back. It was Natalie's birthday on Sunday. How old were you Sunday, Natalie? Do let us know. Natalie's birthday on Sunday. Last Sunday gone. Anyway, so we're flying along and didn't take too long for the old announcement to come on, telling us that we're about to start descending into Tel Aviv and we'll be there in about 20 minutes. And then I thought I'd misheard the pilot. And he said something that I thought he'd said something else. And I'll continue this after a little song for you, all right, boys and girls? Let's play you a little song.
Yes, I was an easy one to fool. Blue-eyed and blonde, just a regular tool. But some things you just don't realize. Even though they're happening right in front of your eyes. I'm not even sure just what went wrong. All I know, I've stayed here for too long.
control and be the DJ. Now, with over 15 years of unique radio broadcasting, Reach on Air.
15 years, eh? We've been here 15 years at Reach on Air. Not me. I've been here 3 times, actually. I've been on Reach on Air. When it kind of, shortly after it first started, then I came back a few years later, and this time has probably been the longest. I've been here about two and a half years now. And just a reminder, if you didn't know already, I do a lovely little music and chat show every morning here on Reach on Air. That's between 9 and 10 o'clock. Monday to Friday, 9 till 10 o'clock, Reach on Air. Carl says he loves tea. I think we'll have to go for a little afternoon tea, Carl. Bring your posh clothes for that one, my love, all right? Thank you. Natalie was 40. I didn't realise you were so old, Natalie. Gosh, you are old, dear. Blimey. So how old is it? Have you got a toy boy? How old is Mark, your husband? Have you got a toy boy? I think you have. Good evening to DJ Sparky joining us there as well. Don't forget, you can join in, boys and girls, if you want to make a comment. Weird City has just joined us. Evening to Weird City. He's got to leave at 9:45. You won't get the whole story, Weird City. You'll have to watch it back on the playback later on. Okay. Vera says, who's the longest serving presenter on Reach on Air? Well, if you don't include management, who of course have been there the longest, people like Aaron, Bertie, Craig, I would imagine it's got to be Ross Patel. I don't think Ross Patel has ever stopped doing it. Only for a couple of weeks here and a couple of weeks there. I don't think he's ever stopped doing it. I think it's probably Ross Patel, but I don't know that. Perhaps if any of the other Reach on Air people know that, perhaps you could send us a message and let us know who's been here the longest. Oh, there he is there. Ross is there. Isn't that funny? There he is. Ross has just popped up on the chat box. And he says, good morning, dear. Just joined. Don't know what the topics are. Well, it's not my fault. You should have been there when we started the show then, shouldn't you, idiot? God's sake, man. Dear me. Don't know what the topics are. I'm not going backwards again, dear. We can't go backwards. We must always go forwards. Move forwards, dear. Move forwards. Yes. He's sitting in the orangery. Oh, dear. He's sitting in the orangery with a bottle of wine, listening and watching you. Are you watching as well this evening? Is that right? Dear. And there you go. Ross started 6 months after the launch, and he's always been here. So I think probably Ross is the person who's been here the longest. I'm sure he is. Non-management type person. I don't think Ross, along with me, I think we've really no interest ever in sort of becoming management of anything like that. That wouldn't interest me at all. You know, I just like to do my thing. Do you know what I mean? Some people are more ambitious, I suppose, really, and they want to sort of climb a tree. Not that there's a tree here to climb, but if you're in certain things, you don't want to climb a tree. For years and years, people said to me, oh, you should run a pub, Chris. You know how to, you know, talk to people and make sure they're okay and all that. But I've no interest in that at all, running, sort of becoming management of anything, really. I'm not really a leader, you know. Follow the leader, follow the leader. Yeah, follow the leader. Glenda's there in the USA. Good evening, Glenda. Evening, who says, hi, Mr. England. Welcome back. You were missed. Hope you had a lovely vacation. Thank you, Glenda. I did. And we're talking about that at the moment, my darling. We'll carry on talking about that. Ross says everyone else has come and gone and come back again. James Freer has also been on a long time. Thank you, Ross. I didn't know that. And as you weren't paying attention or with us at the beginning of the show, I have to tell you, we're talking about my holiday at the moment. I hope that's okay, Ross. And a phone line will be opening later on for you. All right? Not that anyone would call in, but it doesn't matter. We carry on regardless. DJ George Bond has just sent in a message. Chris, I know how to use a strimmer. What has that got to do with anything we've been talking about? I don't get it. Why have you told me that? Anyway, Mark J is 36. Mark J's a toy boy. Mark J is a toy boy. He's 36. His missus is 40. Yeah, Mark Bowles would be my toy boy, you see. He's 30... Oh, is he 39 now? 38 or 39. You know, I'm 60. But don't tell anyone. It's our little secret. All right. So we got to the plane. The plane is now descending into Tel Aviv. And I thought I misheard the pilot. And the pilot, it sounded like to me like the pilot says, and we're just going to go into Tel Aviv in about 10 minutes' time. Just to let you know, the weather is absolutely fantastic today. It's a temperature of 41 degrees centigrade. And what did he say then? And I turned around to my mate Ronnie, because I went on holiday with my best mate Ronnie, right? And he said it's 41, and my heart sank. I know that sounds stupid. My heart sank. I thought 41 degrees. I don't think I've ever been in 41 degrees, and I started to. I'll be honest. I started to panic a little bit. You know, I wasn't looking forward to it, but nevertheless, it is what it is. So the plane came down. Moved into position, and when you're in the upper class, they get you off first. You always take priority because that's what you've paid for, yeah? I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's just how it is. If you pay the money, you get priority treatment. That's what it's all about. And you are more comfortable. For a 5-hour flight, I probably would sit in economy on a 5-hour flight, actually. It's not too bad. But the point is, you know, on a longish flight, you get off a plane, the last thing you want is to feel like you've been dragged through several bushes and you're tired and your limbs are aching because they've been squashed up in a chair. And you lose theology. You lose part of theology by doing that, don't you? So we got off the plane first. And as I went through the plane door, you go again into these little bridges. You know these bridge things that they bring to the plane and they raise them up and you step onto there and then you get into the airport. And as we left the plane, immediately I felt a lot of warmth coming. I thought, oh, perhaps. But I didn't feel that it was that hot. But then again, we've got the air conditioning coming through that bridge from the airport as well. Evening to Darren. Hello to Darren. Welcome to the show. Darren there on Facebook Live. The only one on Facebook Live. So we went through the airport. Not too much of a problem, really. They've got those self-service passport things that seem to work for some people and not for others for whatever reason. So I put my passport down in there. My mate had trouble with it. My mate always has issues. Always has problems. Whatever he's doing in his life, he'll have a problem with it. And he had a little bit of a problem with his passport, and he had to go to a bloke, you know, who was sitting in a little box, and it went straight through there, and that wasn't a problem at all, really. So he went through there, and I met him on the other side, and then we went to the bag carousel, and the bags came around fairly quickly, and then off we went. So we came through the Nothing to Declare channel, because we didn't have anything with us. Although I did have 200 cigarettes, which is allowed, which I'd bought for Father Danny at the church. Because I did say to Father Danny, "Do you want anything while I'm in the Holy Land? You know, thinking he might want a rosary or a bottle of holy water or something like that. Can you get me 200 silk cut silver? I'll give you the money for them," he said. So I picked up those actually at the Heathrow side. I picked up those there. I think it was about £71 or something like that. Much, much cheaper, of course, than buying them in a shop. So I had me 200 cigarettes in the bag. Apart from that, there was nothing else. So we went through the Nothing to Declare, and then you're in the main part of the airport, you see. So we're going through the airport, and we're looking, and there's taxis up there, and you follow the signs to the taxi. Now, listen. I want you to listen to this. Very, very important. Very important. If you've not been on a holiday before, or you have been on a holiday before, and you get to the airport and you haven't arranged transport to get from the airport to your hotel, listen to this, right? Usually they have little minibuses or something like that, and they have taxis, and often they will have a desk in the airport where you will go to and get your taxi. It's like a minicab service, or you can share a bus with other people. I have no problem with that at all. When I've gone to Australia, the first time I did it by train, not all the way, plane to Sydney, and then I got a train like a tube train type thing to near where the hotel was. So you can also do it by train or car or thing. But you do this in the airport. You go to the cab desk, or you go outside the airport and you find the official cabs. And there'll be a line of people queuing, waiting for a cab. It moves fairly quickly because the cabs will be queuing up to take people away. They're the ones you use, right? Listen to this. Never, ever go with someone who comes up to you in the airport, usually on the concourse or just outside. Are you looking for a cab? Do not go with them. You'll probably be ripped off. You'll pay a lot more for them than the official ones, okay? So when you're coming through an airport, never ever accept a car, a mini cab from someone who comes up to you and says, do you want a cab? You go to the official cabs and there'll be a line outside and a sign saying taxis. That's where you go. That's where you wait. Might take you a little bit longer, but at least you know what you're going to pay. And then when you get there, how much is it going to cost, please? And they might say, well, it's on a metre. They will know roughly how much it's going to cost. And when you get there, you've got an idea in your head. Now, don't be silly about these things, right? If they say it's going to be like $200, whatever, $50. If they say it's going to be $50 and it's $55, don't start moaning about $5. You know, sometimes the meter, they don't know exactly what it's going to be. They might have to take a different route. But you've got just an idea. If they say 50 and it turns out to be 200, then you've got a problem, yeah? But never, ever get into a cab. Me and my mate learnt that one in Rome, okay? Because we did exactly that. This bloke come up to us. Are you looking for a minicab? Oh, yeah. Because we didn't know. Yeah, yes, please. Oh, we've got a Mercedes outside. How much is that? Where you going? 70 euros. And we thought, well, that's a bit dear, but that must be what it is. So we got in and we paid the 70 euros. But I think on the way back, we only paid about 25. See? So we're coming through the airport and we found the taxi sign. And we're sort of following. Sometimes these signs don't seem to point in the right direction either, do they? You ever notice that? You see the arrow going that way, and you get to the next sign, and there'll be a sign going a completely the opposite direction, but nevertheless. So we got there, and we said, is the taxis out this way? Yeah, just out those doors, please. Thank you. These doors opened, and honestly, this wall of heat hit us as we went through these doors. 41 degrees centigrade, that's what it was. 41, which is about 41, 40, 80, 90, 100, 110... about 115 Fahrenheit. That's what the temperature was. Fortunately, we were in the shade, so the sun wasn't on us. It's got a little bit of a covering there. And but to be honest, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought, oh my God, how are you going to survive in that? But I did, you know. And we walked, we came out of there, and just to the left was the taxi line, and there's about 20 people in the queue. So we joined the back of that line and moved forward very quickly. No more than 8 minutes, really, as the cabs come through. They load them in, next, load them in, next. It goes on like that. And we got there. How much is the cab, please? Where you going? Be about 170 shekels. Sounds a lot of money, 170 shekels. But a shekel... shekels are about a quarter of the value to the pound, roughly, about a quarter. So 170 shekels, 30, 60, 90, 120, about 33 pounds, 34 pounds shekels. I've actually got a 50 shekel note with me today, which I've got left over, Bank of Israel, 50 shekel note, which is all green, and it's got a bloke on the front. I don't know who the bloke is. I don't know who the bloke is on there. It's like a green colour. They've got different colours. I think one of them's orange. But I've got a 50 shekel note, which is worth, I think, about £12, something like that. £12. As I say, it's around about a quarter. Okay? 50 shekels. 12, 24, 36, 48. About £12. 50 shekels is worth about £12, okay? Mark's there. Hello, Mark. Mark Cording is in the house. Hello, darling. All right. Me and my dad did the same mistake at Rome. Yeah, it's once you've made the mistake once and you learn from that, Mark. Don't beat yourself. You know, once it's done, it's done. You move on from that. Don't let it worry you, mate. just one of those things. I'd like to go to Rome again, actually. I'd like to go to Rome again. Evening to Tony Osborne. Have you just joined us? Well, I'm just talking about that at the moment, Tony. So we'll just carry on with that, all right? Don't forget, gang, you can text in. 07451 287 337 is my text number. Okay, that's the text number. So we got in the cab. Nice bloke. He was all right. And off we went to our hotel. Now, we did have a little bit of trouble finding the hotel. Our hotel was not on the coast. Okay? And actually, it wasn't close to the coast either. It was kind of back a little bit. And around us was a lot of building going on. An awful lot of building there was going on. And I was starting to think, oh dear, what is this? Where are we going? But when we got to the hotel, it's a relatively new hotel. See, they're doing up the whole area, yeah? And we stayed at this hotel called Joe on Sabbit Street or something like that. I can't remember where it was now. And the hotel was really nice. As the doors opened, we got out of the cab, paid him 170 shekels. I think I gave him 200 in the end. 200 shekels would be about 50 quid. Not bad for a journey from the airport. Was in the cab, half an hour, 50 quid. That's all right. Sounds fair to me. Car door opened. Of course, this wall of heat hit us again. And we moved from the car to the hotel right outside the front door. So that wasn't too much of a problem. In with our cases and we checked in. And by now it's 3:30 in the afternoon. 41 degrees, right? So we checked into the room. Ronnie wasn't too pleased. He usually does find... He's one of those people that finds things wrong all the time. I swear he looks for it. He was quite right with the things that he pointed out that were wrong, one of which was a loose tap, and it was very loose, this tap. And the other thing was one of the electrical sockets on the wall, which you wouldn't really touch because the kettle was plugged into the kettle and the coffee machine was plugged into that. That was coming off the wall. Dangerous if you put your fingers behind it, but you wouldn't really have any need to do it. And I must admit, both those items, I'd probably just put up with it. Oh, it's just one of those things. I can't be bothered. But he weren't happy with that. And we did stay there that night, but then we moved rooms the next day. But I'll come to that in a moment. Anyway, so we there weren't too many drawers in there. He said, how many drawers do you want? He brings so much stuff, I can't tell you. It's years and years since I've been on a holiday with Ronnie. Although we did go to Paris together in February, and we stayed, of course, at Claridge's in February as well. No, when did we go to Paris? March, April? Can't remember. And we was at Claridge's. And you see, between you and me, when I've been on holiday with Ronnie a couple of times, and it's just not worked. We've ended up rowing big time. We went to Mexico once, and I came back a week early. It was that bad. And that's why we stayed for the one night at Claridge's, then 2 nights in Paris, just to see how it was. Because 2 nights, we could probably put up with that. And that worked. And that's why we went together. Because we'd already kind of dipped our toe in the water. 15 years has passed since the Mexico thing. And we're both a lot older now. So different sort of outlook on things and that. So there we are. So we've checked into the room. Did we have much of a rest? I don't think we did have a rest in there, really. No, we didn't. We went back downstairs and we booked all our trips. We went on 4 coach trips altogether, which I'll come to in a moment or two. All right? 4 coach. So we booked all those. And then we discovered that the coach doesn't pick us up at the hotel. Now, the last time I went, the coach picked me up at the hotel. I think 7:30 or 6:30. I can't remember the time. It is quite a few years ago that I went the first time. But this time we had to go to a pickup point because obviously, as I say to you, where our hotel was, it was a little bit out of the way. It was also a lot cheaper there than it was had it been on the seafront, yeah? So it swings and roundabouts. So we thought we'd do the walk to the pickup hotel, which was called the Alma, A-L-M-A, the Alma Hotel, which was our pickup point. We thought we'd do our walk, the walk to that tonight, which would have been Saturday night, and we'll see how that goes. And our first trip, I think, was due on Monday. Okay, so it's Saturday night now. So we left the hotel. By now, it's a little bit later. It's probably about 5:30 in the afternoon, something like that, maybe 6 p.m. So it's cooled down a little bit, probably about 38 or 39. So still very hot, but it weren't too bad, to be honest. So we started walking, and I got the Google Maps out. And I've never really been that good with Google Maps. I've never really sussed it out. I know it's the little blue triangle and it kind of points to the direction in what you're walking. I've had so much trouble with that over years. But on this holiday, I used it a lot and I've actually got quite used to it now. And it's a fantastic little thing, Google Maps. Don't matter where you are in the world, it knows where you are and it directs you to where you need to get to. It's fantastic. So I've got this thing out and we've started to walk and we're walking past various shops, and as we're walking along, our sort of area, which is being regenerated. So we're coming out of there. We're kind of at the, how can I put it, the sort of back streets of King's Cross sort of type place, you know. But very soon, within 7 or 8 minutes, we were in an area where there are tall glass skyscrapers all being built. You know, so really nice there. We carried on walking through there, and in the end, I think we got to the hotel, and every now and again he would say, oh, God, you know, how much longer is this going to take? And we got there eventually, and I think it took about 25 minutes to walk to this hotel. And we got there, and he said, I'm not going to walk it, because the pickup time for the tours was 6:30 in the morning. We had to be at the pickup point at 6:30, right? And he's like, he says, we can't do this walk every morning to be there at 6:30. I said, well, he said, we can get cabs. And I just don't like getting cabs, not unless I absolutely have to. They're expensive. You're never quite sure who's driving these things or anything like that, you know. So I didn't want to get cabs. But I kept my mouth shut at this point, and I said nothing. So he said, do you want to get a cab back? I'm like, no, not really. I said, I'll tell you what, let's start walking back. We'll stop and have a cup of coffee and a cup of tea in one of the many, many places that you can stop at, and then we'll just carry on. Yeah, and he agreed to that. So we did that. We walked back round the corner, and we stopped at this place for a cup of tea, right? Oh, hello, Carmel. Carmel's with us this evening. Good evening to Carmel. I was in primary school with her. Very, very late today. Never mind, Carmel. You've missed the beginning of the show, my love. The plane journey and all that. You've missed it all. Never mind. Listen on playback later. You know how to do that, don't you, girl? All right. Good. There's a text message as well. Let's go a text message. Shania says she'd love to go to Rome. Well, go. Go, darling. Save up your money. It's actually, Rome is not a particularly expensive place to get to, my darling. It's all right, Rome. You'd love it. Oh, my God, going in the Vatican takes your breath away, Shania. Get there early, though, otherwise there's a massive queue. And you can go to confession there and everything. All in different languages. Fantastic. All right, love? Okay, so we've had our cup of tea, and then we've walked back a little bit further. And I think we got back to the room, I don't know, about 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 p.m., something like that. And as we got to the hotel, I spotted these scooters, electric scooters. You know, like what they got in London? Loads of the lads around here have got them. A couple of girls, a couple of older people as well, actually. Electric scooters. All illegal in this country at the moment, incidentally, gang. You can only legally ride an electric scooter if you own it yourself on your own private land or on private land, right? Or if you're using it, you have to hire one from one of the many hire companies. I know they've got them in London, Liverpool, Cambridge, maybe you know some other places where they are. And I said to my mate, do you fancy trying one of those? And he's like, oh, I don't know about that. I said, go on, let's give it a go. You know, it's only 8:30 now, or 9 o'clock, whatever it is. It's fairly quiet out there. We could just see how it goes. All right, then, go on then. So we're looking at this, and how does this all work? And we couldn't work it out. So we went back into the hotel, which was just next to where all the scooters were parked. And I said, what are those scooters like out there? She said, oh, you have to download an app. I said, well, what app do we download? She said, there's about 4 or 5 of them. The main 2 are Lime, Lime, and I recognise that name from London because we've got Lime scooters in London. They've got Lime and Dot, D-O-T-T. Okay, fine. I'll download those. So we went back up to our room. And we downloaded these 2 apps. And they ask you for your driving licence. And it's always blooming difficult, isn't it? You know, when you have to take a photo of your driving licence and your phone's going in and out like that and this bloody thing won't recognise it, will it? Can't see it. And eventually it works, doesn't it? But it can take a few minutes to get the damn thing to work sometimes. So you do that and then you set it up to work with Apple Pay. And hey presto, you're ready to go. So the next morning, Sunday, we weren't doing anything Sunday at all. We didn't have a coach trip booked at all on a Sunday. We went downstairs in the morning, thought we'd give these scooters a go there. So you go to the scooter and there's like that little code. You know the little code, like a square thing with loads of dots. And what's that called? A QR code. That's a QR code, right? So the QR code, you scan that, and that works fairly well. It goes beep, like that. A little screen comes up and tells you, oh, this is your first ride. Please read the instructions. So it starts flashing these instructions. You're supposed to wear a helmet. There wasn't one on the bike. Some of the bikes seem to have them. Some of them don't. So we didn't have a helmet. Please wear a helmet. Make sure you stick within the zone. Otherwise, the scooter will stop, and various other bits and pieces. Can I just have a little sip of water here? Hang on. That's better. So we scanned this thing and we got on it and we're looking at buttons and we found this like variable button that like a slider that you push around the handlebars. So we're pushing this thing. Nothing's happening. So I said to my mate, I said, is yours working? He said, mine ain't working either. I said, we must be doing something wrong. And we're looking all over these bleeding scooters now. And the little app, you hit this button that says start ride. Okay? So you start ride and then you see a timer starts going around. Right, fine. And it's not expensive. It's 5 shekels, which is approximately 25, 5 shekels, 1, 2, 3, which is about £1. It's £1 to unlock the bike and get it working, right? And then I think it's one shekel a minute or something like that, which is about 25 pence. That's all it is. It's really cheap. Much cheaper than getting bleeding cabs everywhere. But we're pushing this button forward, nothing's happening there. And then purely by chance, I pushed the scooter along by standing on it and pushed the button at the same time, and it started moving. So we discovered to actually get it going, you have to push off with your foot. You can't stand on it, push the button and it goes. You've got to push up. So once it's got momentum, then you push the little slider thing and off it goes. And it's a variable speed. You take your slider down a bit and it slows down, or full up and it goes at some speed. I think it was 26 kilometres an hour. According to the little speedometer on my phone, which I think is about 15 mile an hour, which is a fair speed for a scooter. And to be honest, I don't think you want to go any faster. That's like the perfect speed. So it's our very first time on these things, and there's a lot of cycleways, cycle pavements, roads. These scooters seem to go everywhere. But Tel Aviv have set out a fairly good cycle network, and we can use those, and we were on those most of the time, and my God, they're fantastic. I immediately fell in love with the electric scooter, and I got to tell you, I've never ever been a fan of electric scooters. I've always thought they're a bit of a menace. They just get in the way. Awful. You soon change your mind when you stand on one. But there's a difference. There is a difference in Tel Aviv and London. The Israelis in Tel Aviv seem to have taken to these scooters, and they are very widely accepted, shall we say. People seem to step out of the way of a scooter. Cars seem to avoid the scooters pretty well. But similarly, the people on the scooters are also aware of people on the pavement and the cars, which you couldn't say in London, because they're bleeding idiots in London, the cyclists and the scooters. And don't say that's because you're a driver, because I'm a cyclist as well. They haven't got a clue. These cyclists in London, there's a particular bloke who I hate, and that's not a nice word, with a vengeance, and this name is Cycling Mickey. Look him up on YouTube. And he basically hides behind bushes to catch motorists during wrong turns and things like that. Nasty piece of good. He's so far up his own rear end, I'm surprised his bum doesn't come out of his mouth when he's sick. Dreadful bloke. He's not even English. He goes round catching cyclists, uploads the videos to YouTube and sends the information to the police. That's how he makes his money. Sad, lonely character that is. But in Tel Aviv, it doesn't seem to be like that. The scooters are pretty good. That being said, just like in London, majority of them do not seem to obey road signs and things like that. They don't always stop at the red lights, although to be fair, they don't tear through red lights like they do in London. They will stop at a red light, look either way, and then if it's clear, they will go. Whereas in London, the amount of times I've seen a cyclist or a scooter going through a red light without even stopping or looking. I honestly don't know why more people aren't dead in London from being run over and stuff like that. It's awful. Awful. Anyway, Carmel says, what's his name again? The one you had. Hey, Cycling Mickey is his name, Carmel. Cycling Mickey. All right. Ross Patel's just messaged in. He says, I know someone who enjoys the hire electric scooters so much that now then driving into the city centre of Norwich for work, he's now sold his car and uses the scooters to get around everywhere. So good for the environment if more did it. Absolutely, Ross. These scooters are an answer to a lot of road problems in our cities. They really are. And they're fun. There's something that is great fun about being on one of these scooters, especially when you've got a clear path in front of you and you whack that speed up 15 mile an hour. And I told you how hot it was. The next day, by the way, that 41 degrees heat was only there on the Saturday that we arrived. By the next day, it had dropped to about 32. So much, much more comfortable. But still, of course, quite hot to walk around in the heat, 32 degrees. So we, on the scooter, you open up that little throttle on the side of your little electric scooter and the wind just blows through you. It's lovely. Really nice. Thank you. Mark J uses Google Maps and another app that tells you what's around you, as I can't always see what I'm looking for. It's called Lazarillo. I've never heard of that. More of an app for visually impaired people, but I find it useful. Mark, thank you. Lazarillo. I've never heard of that one. Never heard of that one. So, we're now in love with the scooters. Yeah, we got back. And this was Sunday, as I say. And what happens is that you collect your scooters, that they have little parking areas, which is like a largest square box on a road. Similar things in London. All right? And when you stop your scooter, you've used it, you've finished it, you then must return it to a place where they're allowed to be parked, like one of the square boxes somewhere. And there's always one close by somewhere, always. So I think we got into Tel Aviv, sort of the more populated part of it, and we dropped our scooters off at a parking place. Then you get your little mobile phone out and you click a red button, end ride. You end the ride. It says, have you parked in a proper parking position? You say yes. You then have to take a photograph of it and send it up over the internet, which is all the case of just pushing a button, taking a photo, and it says your ride has ended. This has cost you X amount. And generally, each time we used one of those, it cost us about anywhere between £2.50 and a £5 or £6, depending how long we'd been on it. See, then you go and do whatever you want to do, and then when you want to go back to the hotel, you find another one, you jump on it, you scan it, off you go back to the hotel. And as I say, we just happened to be lucky, and there was like a little parking place right outside the hotel for scooters, although they're not always there. That's why you have to download all the apps, right? Because so if there's not a Lime scooter one, you could get a Dot one. There are also Tier, T-I-E-R, and Bird, B-I-R-D. I think there was another one, I can't remember. Ideally, you want all 4 apps. So, you know, whatever scooter's there at the time, that's the one you take. Then these apps do different offers, right? So, for example, the Dot one, you could pay 15 shekels, and that would allow you to unlock a scooter for 30 days with that 15 shekels. So you don't pay 5 shekels every time you do it. Just for one payment of 15 shekels, 30 days worth of unlocking. So that's worth doing. Right. And fantastic. So we got back to the hotel and we were well pleased. And it was at that point I said to him, look, I think this is how we're going to get to and from the coach in the morning. And he said, yeah, we are. And that was it. So our first trip was on Monday morning, and we'd booked to go to the Dead Sea and Masada, which is like a mountain, big mountain. So the coach pickup each and every day was 6:30 a.m. Early, isn't it? Evening, Mary Jane. Hello, Mary Jane. All right, darling, welcome along. So to get to the coach pickup point at 6:30, we decided we'd be getting up at 4:45. For 4 mornings of that. Now, before you start saying, oh, well, just imagine being on holiday. Well, that's what the holiday's about, doing stuff, isn't it? You know, and 4:45, it actually equated to 2:45 UK time because there's 2 hours time difference, see? But it was okay. So we went to bed Sunday night, I think about 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. I set 2 alarms, one for 4:45 and one for 5 a.m. 4:45 went off and we both woke up, no problem at all. The only thing with the hotel was that the beds were really narrow. I've never been in such a narrow bed in all my life, and quite frankly, my arse was hanging over the side of this blooming bed. Oh, by the way, I nearly forgot to tell you. So the Sunday, he complained about the room and they moved us to a room which was actually much higher up and had a better view from the balcony. Like all these rooms had balconies on them. Quite a narrow balcony as well as a narrow bed, narrow balcony. But this room had nothing wrong with it. It actually seemed to be a little bit bigger and better than the other room that we'd done there. All right. So Monday morning came, we got up at 4:45 a.m. He had a shower first, I made the tea, then I had a shower, and then we went downstairs at around about 5:45, and we got a couple of those scooters, and off we went on the scooters. We scanned the thing, and it just blooming wonderful, like 6 o'clock, 5:45 in the morning, and you're on an electric scooter in Tel Aviv and it's about 25 degrees centigrade. I tell you, it don't get much better than that. It really doesn't get much better than that. It was great. Great. Some of the scooters did have helmets, and wherever a helmet was available, I put one on. So we fired up the Google Maps. each of these scooters has a little thing on the front where you can affix a mobile phone to quite securely. You know, it changes the shape so depending on the size of your phone. And I'm following the Google Maps, and we soon arrived at the Elmo Hotel, I think just after 6 o'clock, actually. 6 o'clock. The only thing that was bothering me, I suffer a little bit from IBS, okay? Now, I don't want to go into too much detail with it, but you'll get the gist. I don't like to go anywhere too far away from a toilet, just in case. We all have our own regular movements, yeah? Mine are 3 in the morning before I go out, usually after breakfast, 1 before breakfast, and 2 before my radio show in the morning, believe it or not, right? Lunchtime, dinner time, okay? All that business. The thing is, I know I've got to get on a coach. And I know there's no toilet on the coach. Now, I believe a lot of this is in my head. Ah, Chris Bedwell. He was on CMP Radio, weren't you, Chris? Hello, Chris. Evening, Chris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello to you. Mary Jane says I'd be researching a lot on me and my friend holiday for Orlando next year. Well, you'll have a lovely time there, darling. You'll have a lovely time there. Anyway, so I suffer a bit from IBS, but my routine, I have a toilet routine, so to speak. The moment you start upsetting that, it mucks me up, right? So I know that I've got to get on this coach. So in the morning I get up, he's had his shower. I thought, well, I better try and go to the toilet. Can't go. Okay. Had my tea. Right, we're going to go now. I'll just try toilet again. Can't go. Oh. Here we go. I thought, oh, here we go now. So we get to the coach pickup point. I think he found somewhere to get a cup of coffee. I think I went into a coffee place that had just opened. Can you use your toilet? Yes, please. That's fine. Went into the toilet, sat there. No, can't go. Because, of course, you're under pressure now. And I do believe a lot of this, as I said, is in my head. I really believe that. Right? Oh, Chris hasn't done any radio for ages. Have you really? Gosh, you need to do it. Get on there, Chris. You know you love it, mate. You know you love it, because I love it. I love it. So the coach is here now. And bloke comes up and takes all the names. The trouble is, the only thing on your mind, and I know some of you will be suffering with this, the only thing on your mind is you haven't been, you're about to get on the coach for an hour and a half, 2 hours. There's no toilet on the coach. What if? And it's just horrendous. I can't tell you. I'd also made sure I only had 1 cup of tea. Now, in the morning, those of you that listen to me radio show will know that I have a pot of tea in the morning, which consists of approximately 3 large mugs. That's what you get in a pot of tea, 3 large mugs worth, right? I'd made sure I'd only had a medium cup of tea before I left the hotel, because I remember the last time I was in Israel, I went on such a coach trip and I was bursting to go and have a wee somewhere. Just a wee. And we couldn't stop anywhere. And I don't know how I managed to not go. But I learnt from that. So I was only having 1 cup of tea. All the time I was in Israel, if there was a coach journey, I'd only have 1 cup of tea. Well, of course, by the time you've got to the coach, you're parched, you're a little bit dry. But I don't dare have another drink, just in case. You know, it's crazy, isn't it? I also took with me 2 empty bottles onto the coach for obvious reasons. Now, it would be awkward, and you'd have to be very careful that no one else saw you on there. But, you know, that kind of took your mind off it a little bit. If you want to do the other thing, though, what on earth are you going to do? And all the time, every time we was on a blooming coach trip, this was worrying me big time, to the point that after the last coach trip, I said to my mate, I said, look, we've had some fantastic trips on this holiday, which I'm about to tell you about. I said, but I don't think I ever want to go on another coach trip again unless there's a toilet on board, because it's on your mind all the time. It's just awful. I remember having this just after, and all this started after my burst appendix about 24 years ago now. That's when this started. Never had the problem before. I mean, there were occasions just after that, after I started going back to work after that burst appendix, there were occasions it came very close. There was one point where I actually had to stop on the motorway. That's all I'm saying, just awful. Hello to Dreadnoughts. Evening to Dreadnoughts in Canada. Hello to you, sir. Welcome along to the show there, all right? OE is in the house. Good evening to OE. Just joining us there. And Jason Hughes is there. Evening to Jason Hughes. All right. Excellent. There we go. Is that everyone mentioned? I'd just like to... Mick Davenport, scooters are good as long as they're used right. Sadly, in Bristol, they're not. I think it's an English thing, Mick, because those Israelis seem to be fairly good at it, but then they're not good in London. Terrible. Right. Jason says, get some adult nappies, Chris. Problem solved. No. I mean, I suppose... you could... As a... Do you know, it would probably take your mind off it, but can you... What is it like going to the toilet in a nappy? That must be just awful, because I can't remember it. Anyone remember that? I bet you can't. Mark Bowles said he'd plug it. What, you personally, would you? Oh dear. Evening to Dave Squires. Evening, Dave. He's with you after me tonight. Lovely Dave Squires. He'll be singing along with those tunes, won't you, Dave? Ross Patsell says you're not alone. Oh, really? Ross says, I also dread the thing about knowing a long trip with no toilet coming up. Nothing wrong with it. I just don't eat or drink. Anything if I know I have got a long coach trip. I take 2 of them Imodium so I know I won't then need the toilet. That was just awful. I mean, not eating, that's not necessarily a bad thing, not eating before that. Not drinking is another thing altogether, Ross, especially in that heat. Especially in that heat. Because you get so over dehydrated there. Like I am at the moment with my cup of water here. Ross said, I'm so glad you've chatted about this subject, as I have this feeling in my head of what I need to go and where is the nearest loo. I always visit places where I know toilets are. It's weird, but only go to places I know my way around. When we went to Spain with Donna's parents, I was dreading the coach 1-hour trip, but it was okay. I just ate nothing or drank the morning of the trip. Yes, it's the drinking as well, especially for the fellas. I think we probably have more of a problem holding our wee than the ladies do. But my sister, whenever she goes out somewhere, she gets to the place, the first thing she does, she has to find a toilet straight away. It's horrendous. But you know what? I've been lucky so far, and the event has never actually happened. Do you know what I'm saying? I have been lucky so far with that. But I really don't want to go on another long coach trip ever. No more, maybe an hour maximum. But the whole toilet thing, you see, you're under pressure. And one of the other things I discovered on these trips was, yes, the coaches do stop for toilets. But when you get to some of these places, there are also half a dozen other coaches that have stopped at these places, and there is a queue a mile long for the blooming toilet. So you join the queue, if that's not bad enough, so you think you want to go. You think you want to go. You move along the queue slowly. Eventually you get to the toilet 20, 25 minutes later, and there might only be 2 toilets. This was the case at one of the places we stopped. I queued for 25 minutes for this toilet, And you get in, there's 2 toilets there. So you go in the toilet, you close the door, you sit down. You are immediately under pressure to get out of that toilet as quickly as possible because there's a 25-minute queue out there. So you sit there, oh God, I can't go. And then someone starts knocking on the door, which just shuts you down completely, doesn't it? Carl says I would have gone in a bush. There were no bushes, mate, at this particular place. But if you're talking about having a wee, yes. And the funny thing is, sometimes you think, oh, I'm desperate for a wee. And then you try and go and it's been really hot and hardly anything comes out. So what made you want to go to the toilet? It's in your head, but I don't know how you get around that. I honestly don't know how you get around that. So most of the time I couldn't go. Of course, a few days into that, you think, oh, blimey, when's the last time you went properly? It's like 5 days ago. What's happening to all this stuff in you? Gosh. Anyway, so this actually carried on for the entire holiday. Not once. I think I went properly once on the first morning. After that, that was it. I just didn't go really at all. And every time I had an opportunity to go into a toilet, I'd go in there, I'd sit down, nothing, because you're under pressure. I actually ended up looking it up on YouTube, on Google, and it's a very common thing. Holiday constipation, basically, it's called. And it's to do with a lot of things. In your mind, the pressure that you're under, the time differences, the change of diet. It's a really common thing to have constipation on holiday. There we are. Anyway, just jumping forward, when I walked back in here on Saturday night at 9:30, within 10 minutes of coming in, do I need to go any further? And it's been all right since. As soon as I came in this front door, within 10 minutes, I was able to go decently. And then the next morning, and the afternoon, and the evening, and it's been fine ever since. It's something to do with going on holiday. Awful. Anyway, so that's it. So, we've got to our first trip, which was the Dead Sea, and a mountain called Masada. And I'll tell you more about that after another little tune for you boys and girls, all right?
This city has a special morning voice. Speaks to me through an open window, masquerading as noise. 10 million people waking up. And somehow I'm the lucky guy who gets to make you a coffee cup. And if I ever forget what matters most, if I am giving up the ghost, remind me, babe, and I will do my best to recall. And if I start start. And if I ever forget what matters most, if I am giving up the ghost, remind me, babe, and I will do my best to recall. And if I stumble and fall, if I make a mess of it all, remind me, babe, and I will do my
Evening.
Chris Reardon, Tuesday night, reach on air.
Let's say hello to Roy Brownlow, who's joined us tonight. Evening to Roy there. Let's have a look. Dreadnought says, by the time I wake up and get both my kids off to school, they walk out the door and I run to the bathroom every morning. It never fails. There's a few of us with this problem, isn't there? Hello to Janice Pope. She didn't realise we were on tonight. Yes, we're here every Tuesday night, Janice, as long as I'm not away somewhere for 2 hours between 9 and 11 o'clock. If you're thinking Wednesdays, I kind of dropped the Wednesday for now. Anyway, okay, I just don't feel that one at the moment anymore, really, the Wednesday night one. So we just do Tuesday nights here between 9 and 11 o'clock. And, of course, the radio show every morning, reachonair.com, Monday to Friday between 9 and 10 o'clock, all right? Excuse me. Ross Patel says, I only have this odd feeling in my head because of one single day. This is the toilet issue, when he needs a toilet. About 20 years ago, I was a passenger on the M25 in my mum and dad's car as we were all going on holiday. Big traffic jam comes up. I panic as I think, oh no, what if I need to go to the loo? 30 minutes past, then I feel I need to go. Then I start sweating as I need to go badly now. I then say, Dad, I need to go badly. He then starts shouting, I can't pull into the whole shoulder. I just get out of the car and leg it behind a bush, and luckily a loo roll was on the back seat because Mum and Dad had a cold. I always have loo roll in the boot, and I hate being a passenger. I always have to drive now. I get it, Ross. I was stuck in a traffic jam on the M25 and it happened. Basically, now at the time I had a Land Rover, and I don't mind telling you, I jumped in the back of a Land Rover which just happened to have a very large blanket in the back. Don't need to say any more, do I? It's horrendous, and I just don't want to go on another coach journey again because of it. Vera says, do you remember when I went to see the Queen laying in state? I couldn't drink anything. You know, even worse for ladies. You know, if you get a couple of lads or something together, you know, just gather around and you have a quick pee in the bush, don't you? Yeah, awful. Anyone else talking about that? Mark J, if I don't drink enough fluids, I dehydrate and that causes problems. You really shouldn't not drink. That's the worst thing. Not eating is a different thing, you know, for a day. I mean, to be honest, I could probably not eat for 4 days. It might be doing me a bit good. But drinking is a different thing altogether, you know. Awful. Paul and Lou say you'd be all right at Glastonbury, Chris, at the toilets. There are thousands of them. Louis never goes. Lou never goes. Louise never goes while she's there. She has stage fright. Yeah, I would as well. Oh, gosh. Mark J, our train from London back to Crewe the other week had no toilets. 2 hours on the train with no toilets. It's awful, isn't it? I tell you where you do get hard pushed finding a blooming public toilet that works. Paris. They got a few of those super loos all over the place, but they never seem to be working. They're always out of order. That being said, you can just generally go in any sort of little cafe, restaurant type place in Paris. There's hundreds of those all over the place who just use theirs, you know, so it's not too bad. It's when you're on a coach. Horrible, 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 horrible. Anyway, so Monday morning, 6:30, on the coach, got to the place, Masada and the Dead Sea. We started off with the Dead Sea. By this point, we had been on the coach for about 2.5 hours. I think there was a break. We did break somewhere for a toilet stop. And we got to the Dead Sea. First of all, they take you in this shop and they're selling you all this Dead Sea products and all that. Oh, it's all got minerals from the Dead Sea and all this stuff. A few people buying it. I don't really buy anything like that. My mate bought a few like facial scrub and some sort of blooming cream to put around his face or whatever. I don't know what it was. And then we changed a little changing area, and we changed into our swimming shorts, and we went down to the Dead Sea. The sun was brightly shining. It wasn't over hot. And they tell you get in the Dead Sea, do not splash around. Very bad, because that sea is so salty, you do not want to get it in your eyes. And you walk in there fairly slowly, right, into the Dead Sea, because it's like I say, you don't want to fall over. You don't want to put your head in that water. They say you can stay in there for about half an hour, after which the salt might start affecting your skin. So we got in there, and you take your legs off the ground and you just float. It don't matter how fat you are. I was surprised I was floating, to be honest. Especially, I was carrying extra weight because I couldn't go to the toilet either. Oh, God, blimey. And we just floated around in there for a while. We took a few photos and a couple of videos. And it's just nice to be laying there. And you get talking to people and what have you. So that was the first part of our little journey. Then we got back on the coach. And we went to Masada, which is a mountain. And there's like ruins at the top of the mountain. So we got there. The first thing we do was had lunch, which was like a fairly basic lunch. I can't remember what I had actually. It's not like the English food though. There's a completely different diet there, and there's a little shop there, and you can buy bits and pieces. And then you get in this lift, like I don't know what you call it, a bit like the one at Hastings. It goes up the side of the mountain, It's like fixed to the side of the mountain, like a cable car type thing. So you get in this lift and you go up to the top of the mountain. Now, I was really hot, and I have been up the mountain before. And I know up there is no shade, as in zero. No shade whatsoever up the mountain. And I've got as far as the cable car. And I felt very uncomfortable going up into that heat. Was going to be up there about an hour and a quarter. I did it before. I didn't find it particularly interesting. But my mate was there, and I said to Ronnie, Ron, look, I really don't feel up to going up and standing up there in that heat. Are you okay with that? And he said, yeah, that's fine. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, thank you very much. So I didn't go up. And I just came back out, and I sat down at a meeting place, which was nice and cool, and sort of a bit of air conditioning going on there. I think there was as well. So that was really quite comfortable. And I stayed there. I didn't go up to the mountain. I knew what was up there. Been up there already. Didn't want to go up again and suffer in that heat. So that was fine. Eventually he came back down and he found it quite interesting and all that. And then we got back on the coach and went back again. Of course, while they were up there, I did take the opportunity of sitting on the toilet there. There was no one around. Still couldn't go. Oh, God. Vera says she can't float in water. She's tried it. Not that water. You would in the Dead Sea because it's so salty. It's really thick. When you're floating around, if you go on your back and then you try and get up again, and it's really difficult. Actually, while I was trying to get my legs back down, I did splash a bit, and a tiny bit of the water got in my eye. It's enough sting. Awful. Then we got back to Tel Aviv, I think about 7:30. Did we have something to eat there? I think we were really tired at that point. So I think, yeah, that's right. We stopped at like a shop. They got like a 7-Eleven there, but it's called 9.00pm. And there's loads of those all over the place. So we stopped there and I just got some rolls and some crisps, that sort of thing, and took them back to the room. And I had that. So that was the first trip we went on, the Masada and the Dead Sea. The second trip we went on was Nazareth, Capernaum, and the Sea of Galilee, and that was really nice. Nazareth, lot of Jesus stuff there, you know. But these are like towns, but they're not like towns like in the UK, you know. They're very different. Very different. Lots of hustle and bustle, people going around. We went in a church there. Which church was it now? I can't remember. In Nazareth. We went in quite a few churches over the 4 days that we were there. They're very beautiful. And each church is very individual, you know. So that was really nice. Lovely weather going on there. And the Sea of Galilee, which is just stunning. Absolutely stunning. You actually can see it before you get to it, you know, through the coach as it goes round the road. Really, really nice. And bought a few souvenirs, or people were buying souvenirs. Every time we stopped at a souvenir shop, of course, they had a toilet, which I tried to use, but I couldn't. Oh, there's my nephew, Gary Butler. Evening, Gary. Gary says you need a van that you can just go to the toilet anywhere. Gary's got like a van that he done up. He created his own camper van. It's wonderful, really. And him and his little family, they go around on little weekends away and things like that. They all sleep in this van, which has got like beds in it, and it's lovely. I think it's a lovely little thing that you got there going, Gary. That little camper van. Actually, I was talking to your sister the other day, my niece. They're thinking about buying a caravan, as in a tow around, not a big one, you know, little tow around caravan, which would be, I suppose, similar to what you got there. I think to be honest, I think I'd rather have something like what you've got, rather than towing around a caravan. And Gary's got his own toilet in there. Whenever he wants to go, he just pulls over and uses it into a carrier bag. Vera says, if I go in salty water, I go in black and come out white. Yeah, you should try that, Vera. Try it in your bath, darling. Go and get a load of salt, put it in your bath, see if you come out white. Report back. That can be like a little experiment you can do. Oh, so that was Nazareth, Capernaum, Sea of Galilee. And then the next day we did Jerusalem, Old and New tour. Okay, so there's 2 parts to Jerusalem. There's the old city place and a newer place where Wailing Wall, I think, is at that place. And you go in the old Jerusalem city, and it's got all these different quarters, like the Christian, Muslim quarter, the Jewish quarter. I can't remember what the other one is. Is it Armenian, maybe? Or is the Armenian one the Christian one? I can't remember now. But different sections of it, and you go through all these markets and that, which are fantastic. All selling a lot of tat. A lot of tat. Okay? But there was other stuff there as well, and different types of food and what have you. The only thing is that the guide we had for this, it was a bit fast. Okay? And we didn't really have time to stop and look at any of this stuff. It was just kind of motoring through it all, taking us to places, giving us a bit of a chat, and then he'd be off again. But he was moving so fast, eventually 5 of us got lost. And I've got to tell you, being lost in Jerusalem, in that old part of Jerusalem where all those markets are, is scary. I'm not saying that there's loads of dodgy people walking around. I wouldn't know. It didn't look like there was anyone dodgy walking around, but we were lost. And we're looking, and it's one of those places where you can go that way, or well, where is he? And I found that pretty scary. So did my mate, and so did the other 3 people. Eventually, we went up a road, and we just happened to take the right turning. And there, just up outside the shop, I could see him doing a chat. Well, I was ready to go up to him, say, look, mate, you need to slow down a bit. We can't keep up. Some of us are a bit older here. I'm 60. He would have been about 40, I suppose, this guide. and he was all right. But my mate got there first, and my mate doesn't hold back. He was fuming, and he was telling him as well. He says, you can't just go like that. Well, you should be looking back for us. And do you know what the bloke said? I haven't got eyes in the back of my head. At which point, this big American lad, he went for him. He laid into him verbally. He said, your job is to keep us together, and you haven't done it. And the bloke is very not apologetic at all. And this American bloke is getting more and more angry now, and to the point where he rang the office. He rang the office about this guide. You know, apart from moving too fast and getting us lost, or losing us, should I say, I thought he was all right. But he just wasn't keeping an eye on us. It's a really scary place to be lost. That particular place. And I get lost very easily. You try and keep up, right? You see him moving, but he was moving too fast. You know, you just oh, let me just have a look at that. Then you look round. Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Anyway, it wasn't just us that was lost. So it was 5 of us, which I think is actually quite a lot of people to lose. If it was one person, you could understand it. That being said, my mate was always last. I noticed that with him. He was always lost because he's taking pictures of something. And you look, well, where's he gone? He wanders off. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like I'm on holiday on my own sometimes because he just wanders off. Where's he gone? Where's he gone? You know, a bit like that, really. But, you know, it is what it is. And then from the markets, we went to the Wailing Wall, which is a very, very special place for the Jewish people. And they go to this wall, and they're all praying, and they're kind of going backwards and forward, making like prairie type noises, back and forward. I'm not sure if the going backwards and forwards actually is significant at all, but a lot of them are going like that at the wall, right? And they're doing prayers, and people have got little prayers written on bits of paper, and they push them into cracks in the wall and all that business. And my mate became quite emotional here because there is a picture of his grandfather standing at the wall, and he wanted to recreate that picture, and we did. When you're at the Wailing Wall, they do ask you to wear the little kappa, the Jewish little hat that they all wear. You're supposed to wear one of those, and there's a little box, a glass box, and you take one out and you wear it while you go to the wall and have a look round, and then you put it back in the box afterwards. You can incidentally buy these little hats, all I think they're called kappas, I can't remember now. You can buy them all over Israel, different colours and bits and pieces like that. Very, very nice. Carl says we were lost in a tropical forest in Australia. Oh, God. I bet that was scary. People have died in there, Carl. Very easy to get lost in a forest. You think, oh, it's lovely in this forest. And when you realise you're lost and you look around and everything looks the same. Everything happened to me here, actually, because we've got a forest quite close here, and I kind of got lost in there when I went off the main sort of drag, if you see what I mean. But I remembered I'd been walking down a hill, so I then started walking up, and I found where I'd come from. It's really scary. So I think we went to the Wailing Wall, and yeah, that was that little trip. So that's 3 trips so far, and our final trip, we'd booked the wrong thing, but I noticed it on the Tuesday that the wrong thing had been booked. So Ronnie changed it, and that was to visit Bethlehem, which is said to be the birthplace of Jesus. To do that, you have to cross into another country. Now, it was a bit different. Last time I was in Israel, I didn't do it. I was scared. I was scared that I was going to get, hijacked or something like that while I was out. And but it was different this time. So basically, you get your coach and it drops. The Israeli tour guide is with you all the way, right? Takes you through into Palestine. You go through a check because it's another country. Go into Palestine, and you're immediately aware of how it's like another country, if you see what I mean. There's a lot of rubble around everywhere. Now, I don't know if that's just rocks or whether they've been missiled or bombed or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But it looks a lot of it is like looks quite run down. Okay, and you can see that they haven't got much money. When the Israeli coach arrives, he's not allowed to take you on the tour. They have another Palestinian guide who comes onto the coach, and she seems to get on with the Jewish guide as well. That works quite nicely. And her name was Maria, and she was absolutely fantastic. She was wonderful, this woman. She was very, very knowledgeable. She told me off, actually. She told me off. And we went to this first place, which was like where the shepherds in Jesus' time used to sleep and do stuff. So there's a church there. She took us there. But she was very knowledgeable as well, and she liked to give you the whole description of everything and this, that, and the other going on, right? And she was Spanish speaking as well as English speaking. So she starts off. We go into this like beautiful garden, right? Oh, just before we got into the garden, there was this boy with a sheep or a lamb. He says, "Anyone want photo? You want photo? You want photo?" And he weren't asking much money. So I had my photo done with him and his lamb. I must admit, I did wonder to myself, how long will that lamb last? You know, after the photos, are they going to cook it tonight or what? I do hope it's not Carl. Cute little lamb and his little eyes. So I had my photo done with that. And we'd also stopped at a tourist shop there in Bethlehem, which was much cheaper than the ones in Jerusalem. And I bought some things, actually. I've got them behind me. I shall describe them to you. I quite like, what do you call it? Ceramics. And I bought two breakfast bowls, which you can hear. There we are. I bought 2 breakfast bowls with Bethlehem written on them. Ever so nice they are. Right. Beautiful, all painted and all that. Now, I tried to use one the other morning, but one of the things I have in the morning is a chopped up apple. And the bowl is in such a shape that it's quite difficult to chop the apple up in it, unfortunately. So I might not use it for that in future. But it's got a picture inside it of a bird and buildings and things like that, and the word Bethlehem. So I bought 2 of those, which were, I think they were about 45 shekels, 50 shekels each, something like that, which is only about 12, 15 quid, something like that. And I also bought like a ceramic tray thing with the words Jerusalem on it, again, which is very, very beautiful as well. All like painted. It's probably done in some sort of machine. And I use this next to my my chair downstairs. I put tea on there. And it says Jerusalem at the top. It's all blue and white and yellow. Beautiful colours and all pictures of, like, houses on there, you know. That sort of thing. So quite pleased with that. I've also got a teapot here, which my mate bought me. Lovely china teapot. That's blue and white colour. I've got to get a tea strainer, though, because I don't have a tea strainer at the moment. The pot I use at the moment is like a stainless silvery steel thing that's got an internal sort of, you know, built-in tea strainer in it, that sort of thing. Also bought some rosaries. They weren't very expensive, and I bought them for a purpose, actually, which I'll tell you in a moment. Because one of the places we went to in Bethlehem, after we went... Oh, no, I was going to tell you, she told me off. So she's reeling off this information in Spanish, this lady, in the sort of garden, just before the first church that we went to see. And she's going on and on, right? And I spotted a toilet. And I wanted to butt in. I thought, I better wait till she's finished. So as she finishes, she says, do you mind if I use that toilet up there? And she says, well, why didn't you use it while I was doing it all in Spanish? Oh, well, go on then. I'll wait. So I got told off for using the toilet. I didn't dare try and have a number two. I just had a quick wee and I came back out again because I didn't want to get told off again. And then she took us into the church and we saw the shepherds' huts, which were like a cave, really. And the top is all black, where, of course, they've burnt candles over the years and stuff like that. And then from there, we went to the Church of the Nativity. And I have to say, we were on a minibus, actually, now. And I felt reasonably safe going around. You know, we'd swapped buses at this point because we had to take smaller buses to go further in. And we had this young Palestinian lad driving. And he was really nice to talk to. Ever such nice people. Because remember, we're only tourists. We're not like political enemies or anything like that. And they recognise us, I think. And as we're going around, the Palestinians have got these places which are basically a rip-off of American companies. Star... There was a play on the Starbucks word at two places, and a play on KFC as well, where they'd used a sort of very similar. You'd never get away with it here or in America, but of course in Palestine they just do what they like, you know. So we were quite amused by that, and we got to the Church of the Nativity, which again is split up into sort of different parts of the Christian religion. And eventually we got into the part where it is said that Jesus was born. Now, I got to say, there's some right idiots on Facebook, okay? Because I put up a post of where it said Jesus was born. And it said clearly at the top, this church has been built on the place where Jesus was born. And there was 3 people put, I thought he was born in a stable. So, by that same sort of stupidity, do you think that stable's still standing there 2,023 years later? It clearly said at the top, this church was born on the place where Jesus was born. No, I don't think the stable's there anymore, love. Just stupidity. I do get a little bit fed up with that on Facebook. You know when people put sort of messages on Facebook and everyone is like a stupid comment and it's not funny in any way, shape or form. Anyway, so I just ignored it. I usually ignore it. I don't comment or I like. So if you put comments up on my Facebook and they're not liked, you know exactly what I think, okay? So we got into the area of the church where Jesus was born, and again, there's this great long queue, of course, of people wanting to go down and touch, look, see, have your photograph taken. And it's very narrow. It goes into like this down steps into almost like a little cave. And Maria, our excellent tour guide who just knew everything about everything. Oh, by the way, when she was in the souvenir shop, she stood next to the till as we were buying stuff, making sure that they gave us the correct change. I was very, very impressed. She was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Mark J, I usually react with an angry face on comments I don't agree with. No, don't bother, Carl. That's what they want. They want some sort of comment back from you. Either just ignore it or delete it. They soon get the idea. I get fed up with idiots making stupid comments on my Facebook page. I usually just delete them. Or things that you think, maybe the other person might be offended by this, and I'll take it off. End of. I don't need to react with these people at all. Right. Oh, Carl says there were ants everywhere when he got lost in that forest. Ants and birds. No handsome men, though. Unlucky, mate. Dear. Ross Batzel has loved the chat tonight. He's now off to get his leg. Oh, I better not read that out. Are you with us tomorrow? Yeah, Ross is with you tomorrow, just after me, okay. Thanks, Ross. I'm glad you enjoyed the chat. Where are we now? So we're in the Church of Nativity. Maria, she says, right, come this way. And we've gone past this queue. Right? She's taken us right down the side of the queue to the front. Or at least the top of the stairs. She's like, right, come here. And she's grabbing our hands and arms and pulling us into place. I thought she was fabulous, Maria. She's telling us, I think her husband's not very well or something like that. And she says, right, when they start moving forward, go down the stairs. Don't push, just make sure you're moving all the time. And it's sure enough that it started going forward. And we moved down the stairs and we got to the point of where Jesus is supposed to have been born. And it's basically a star which is on the ground on a little hole where the star is. I don't know if it was filled with water or not. You can't spend time there because there's a lot of people there. You can probably get 2 in there at a time, mainly. And eventually I got down there. She did tell me to take my rucksack off. I walked everywhere with this little rucksack on my back. I forgot to take it off. She said, you might knock something over. So I kind of got down on my hands and knees. And I just wanted to touch that place, really. But while I was touching it, I had 4 rosaries with me, my one, and 3 others. Okay? One of which I have here now. It wasn't a particularly cheap, expensive rosary. It was quite cheap. But this rosary has touched the place of Jesus' birth. And there were specific people that I bought one of these from who I knew would really appreciate it. That is a lady at the church called Dorothy. A lady that my sister knows, Bernie. She doesn't know it's coming, though. And Auntie Brenda. Hello, Simon. Evening, Simon. So that's who I bought them for. And it was really hot down there because there was a lot of people milling around, of course. But I got there and I touched where it's supposed to have... Jesus is supposed to have born. And of course that would be the highlight of the entire trip. So we finished there, we came back out of the church, got back onto the coach, continued to drive through to Palestine, and then when you go back into Israel, it's more stringent checks. You've got to have your passport out and all this, that and the other, and they check you before you go back into Israel, and then you cross back over. I must say I didn't feel particularly unsafe at all in Palestine, which is where Bethlehem is. And if you ever do get the opportunity to go to Israel, then I think I'd like to recommend that you go to Bethlehem as well. All right? And enjoy yourself there. So they were our 4 coach trips, which were all fantastic, all of them. There are many, many other trips you can do. They were just the 4 that we'd actually selected there. All right? We had a couple of off days, and on the off days, we jumped on the scooters and went down to the beach, which was really nice. Nice little trip down to the beach. Scooters along there, and we did a bit of walking. Lots of stops for tea and food and what have you. The food out there is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic food. Hello to High Grade Gaming. Evening to you. Hello to you, sir. Can you sing a verse from Queen? Why do you want me to sing a verse from Queen? Oh, have we got any likes today? Don't forget to like the show. I always forget to ask you to do that. I know a lot of the other people on TikTok and YouTube that. Of course, you can't do it on Reach On Air. But, yeah. So there we are. All right. High Grade Gaming. High Grade is in the house. Made contact on YouTube. Yeah, I see you on there now. It does take a while if I'm sort of in the middle of a conversation and I don't tend to look over. You know, we keep going as quickly as we can. All right, boys and girls, that's it for me tonight. Thanks ever so much for joining us. I'm so sorry we didn't get around to opening the phone lines tonight, did we? I need another hour. I think I needed another hour, really. So we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for joining us, boys and girls. I'll leave you here on Reach On Air with a song from Oliver Heldens featuring Kylie Minogue, 10 out of 10. And I'll be back with you tomorrow morning just after the 9 o'clock news. All right, that's here on Reach On Air. Tonight, straight up.